For years, Ilhan Omar and her defenders insisted the questions were nonsense. They said the scrutiny was political. They said there was nothing to investigate. But now she may in fact face deportation. As federal authorities ramp up enforcement activity in Minnesota, records connected to Omar's background are being reviewed, and claims she dismisses as baseless are being examined through formal channels. That Ilhan Omar may have yet lied about becoming a citizen as a minor through her father, which means she could be subject to deportation for immigration fraud. And that's the part that makes this moment different. It's more than just baseless claims. Now it's the timeline and documentation. As always, guys, the best way to show your support is by smashing that thumbs up, hitting that subscribe, and sharing this video so more people see what's really going on. Now, as most of you already know, questions about Ilhan Omar's immigration history have circulated for years, and every time her name comes back into the news, the same cluster of allegations resurface. First, there are long-standing allegations involving Omar's marriage history, specifically claims of marriage fraud. These allegations are disputed, of course, by Omar, but they continue to circulate because of a series of unusual timeline overlaps that critics point to. Most recently, images of a marriage license application circulating online, which critics argue show a marriage between Omar and a man named Ahmad Ilmi. The allegation is that this marriage was entered into for immigration-related reasons. Then there's what reignited this debate yet again when the president, while he was speaking at a public event in Pennsylvania, said to the crowd that he heard Omar had married her brother. This is a story also reported by the Daily Mail featuring a Somali community member who went on the record claiming that Omar privately told people that Ahmad Ilmi was actually her brother. According to his account, Ilmi allegedly arrived in Minneapolis from London, was introduced socially as a relative, and later became Omar's legally registered husband. Again, this is the claim as reported. What makes this allegation persist isn't just the claim itself, it's the timeline of it all. Omar was previously married to a man, according to public records. That marriage ended, and she later married Ilmi. Now, the marriage was short-lived, after which she remarried her first husband again, right as her congressional campaign was underway. And so the claim is that Omar and the first husband, the real husband, were never actually truly separated during that period, and that the legal marriages did not reflect the personal reality. That claim has been strongly denied by Omar, but it remains central to why critics say the issue never fully dies. Now, here's where this intersects with what's new. A former congressional candidate in Minnesota has raised concerns about Ilhan Omar's naturalization to the U.S., saying that the Democrat lawmaker lied about her birth year. In May of 2019, shortly after Omar won Minnesota's 5th congressional district, her staff contacted Minnesota's legislative reference library requesting a change to her listed birth year from 1981 to 1982.
She claimed that she became a citizen at the age of 17.
Everybody knows I came to the United States at the age of 12, gained my citizenship at the age of 17, and
so when I realized she wasn't actually 17, I created a video explaining derivation of citizenship and how that works. So to me, this was like completely a red flag that I had figured out that she actually wasn't a minor when her father could apply for naturalization. So it kind of blows a hole in her story that she obtained naturalization or citizenship when she was 17.
Now, let's stop right there because maybe you guys didn't know what it meant because I didn't, so I wanted to look it up. What did derivation of citizenship mean? And so what that means, specifically when we talk about the U.S., is that a child automatically gains citizenship through their parents' naturalization or status, typically if the child is under 18 when the parent naturalized. So it's all a bit too coincidental, some might say, that she's been going around this entire time saying that she got naturalized at 17. But then when you do your digging, you come to find out that maybe she made a mistake, maybe it was a clerical error, But then after winning the 5th congressional district in Minnesota in 2018 and being sworn in 2019, maybe somebody did a little bit of just, hey, dotting their I's and crossing their T's and notice, oh, you actually made a mistake and, slipped up and actually told the truth when you filled out the paperwork. And that's why it had her real birthday, or at least her alleged real birthday, but she made sure to correct it so it reflected the story she's been telling everyone this whole time about her being 17 when she was naturalized through her father.
Yeah, you've been putting all of this out there on social media. And again, you have been for years. I know one of your posts recently was even shared by President Trump's Truth Social account. It's not just your opinion, though. You've documented all of this. And you can see for yourself, the screenshots were, as you say, Omar changed her birth year from 1981 to 1982. Despite the documentation, many still have doubts, especially those who pointed out that USCIS doesn't release full records publicly and name verifications may affect searches. But what do you say to those who doubt this story?
I believe that the whole narrative that Ilhan Omar became a citizen at the age of 17, that narrative that's documented, has been sold for so long that people have bought into it and they believe it. But where's the documentation? No one has seen her official naturalization records. No one. Not the Minnesota Secretary of State, not the Federal Election Commission, not Congress. And there is enough evidence now, especially in changing her birth year. I mean, who does that? Who goes to that effort of, oh, I'm in Congress now and I've just noticed that my birth year is incorrect. No, that's a red flag. On top of that, not anyone has ever verified her citizenship, not the Minnesota Secretary of State, the FEC, or Congress itself. I then went to the Minnesota Secretary of State's office in October of 2019, I believe, and I asked questions and found out that they didn't verify her citizenship, and they actually don't.
So how do you verify their citizenship if they're foreign-born? But that's outside of our realm. There's no authorization in the statutes for us to follow, double check on people, verify their status and things like that. They sign the affidavit. That's the certification statement, and that's just the way it is right now. There is no law that requires us, and in fact, because there is no law telling us to do that, we would be violating the laws by checking up on people. We don't verify everybody is a citizen. We don't verify everybody is a citizen. We don't verify everybody is a citizen.
Okay, everyone, you just heard it. When a candidate goes to file to run for an elected office, the state is not verifying U.S. citizenship.
And this is what makes this moment significant, because for years, whenever questions came up about Ilhan Omar's marriage history, the explanation offered by her defenders was always the same: that records from Somalia are unreliable or unavailable due to the Civil War, the documents were destroyed, that timelines can't be fully reconstructed. Now, whether people accepted that explanation or not, here's the logical problem it creates. If the argument is that official records from that period are incomplete or unreliable, then by definition, discrepancies in other biographical detail become harder, not easier to dismiss. In other words, if records are missing, if documentation is fragmented, then questions about dates, timelines, and corrections don't disappear, they multiply. And that's why the birth year correction stands out to so many people, because coincidences are easier to accept when they happen once. They're harder to accept when they keep on stacking. And for Ilhan Omar, the issue isn't just one single allegation. It's the reoccurrence that keeps on popping up over and over and over again. Multiple stories involving people in her orbit have surfaced. Stories centered on defrauding public programs and misuse of taxpayer funds. Take Minnesota. The state was ground zero for one of the largest COVID-era fraud cases in the country, as we're finding out, with the Feeding Our Future scandal, where hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars were taken through a network of nonprofits and vendors. Reporting has shown Omar had documented connections to individuals and business owners later charged in that case, including appearances and photos in public events. And those connections have been acknowledged in reporting, even as Omar denies any involvement in the crimes themselves. Separately, other reporting has pointed to Omar being photographed with individuals who were later charged with welfare fraud. Again, being photographed with someone is not proof of guilt, but when these connections accumulate, they raise legitimate questions about judgment, vetting, and accountability. And that's the context people are reacting to. And so when new allegations or discrepancies, however you want to look at it, resurface, whether about the timeline, the records, or past relationships, they don't land in a vacuum. They land on top of an already crowded file. And that brings us to what Tom Homan said on Newsmax. Take a listen to what he had to say as things ramp up in Minnesota.
Calls that a fraud. It's a story that has never been successfully refuted, even though it's now a 5-year-old story. That's clearly a deportable offense. Is there an investigation into that?
You know, I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file, and says, there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitation became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought up. Who was president? Who ran DOJ? So pulling the records now, pulling the files, and we're looking at, but this fraud investigator, who I know personally, one of the best fraud investigators in HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, said there's no doubt he reviewed the file. So I'm running that down this week, matter of fact, and we'll see.
So here's where this actually lands. Because this isn't about one rumor. It's not just about one single document. It's not about a couple news clips on cable news or whatever. It's about patterns and how those patterns are handled. And when questions come up, the public isn't just looking for outrage. They're asking for clarity. And over time, Ilhan Omar's story has accumulated enough overlaps. I think we see that. Enough corrections, enough associations that simply waving it away as, well, that's just nothing over there to see, no longer satisfies people expecting accountability from public officials. If the record is clean, it will hold. If it's not, the documentation, the timeline, the paperwork will show it. Either way, this is how the system is supposed to work. Questions get asked, records get reviewed, and we'll have to see if in this case, accountability gets served. And that's not hate or discrimination or racism. That's just following the facts wherever they lead. But now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, best way to show your support is by smashing that thumbs up, hitting that subscribe button, and sharing this video. That way more people see what's really going on. Until next time.